Yeah, go ahead.
Get started. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Alex Conti, and I would like to thank you for joining us on our Thursdays with Terry, as the women's national team coach Terry Steiner walks us through training while they're dealing with the whole COVID-19 pandemic. Before I get started, there's a couple of things. Let me make sure that I get these said. I want to thank Ambit Energy and Team USA Energy for making this webinar possible. While I'm at it, I want to remind people that Coach Frank Baumgardner is here to monitor questions that you might want to ask, okay? If you look down at the bottom of your screen, there's a chat button. If you click on that chat button and you just type it in, anybody who's not familiar with Zoom, you type in your question, and Frank will try to get to as many as he can. So today, although he's having some technical difficulties, not only do we have Coach Steiner, but we are extremely excited to have four-time All-American, NCAA champion, and he was a 2012 Olympic bronze medalist, currently the head coach at UNC, Coleman Scott. So he will be here shortly. So welcome, gentlemen. Coach Steiner, last Thursday. Oh, hold on just a second. That's from Coleman Scott. He's on. Great. He's on. Frank, you got him?
He's on. He's ready to go.
All right. Super. So, Coach Steiner, last week we ended at journaling and its importance. I think we ought to just pick it up right there. You know, importance for goal setting, diet, exercise, routine. I mean, you covered an awful lot of stuff, but it is so important. I really think that we need to go back and start right there. Then we'll bring Coleman. I'd like to bring you on right there, just so that you know, I'm certain. You know, we'll talk about when you started, but I'm certain that those kind of things, goal setting, that kind of stuff, was important for you. So when Terry's talking through it, if you feel something that's important to you, please just chime right in, okay? So Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for everyone for getting on the call again. Great to have you here again for the second week in a row. If it's your first time, thanks for being here. You know, one of the things that we were talking about last week is when I see athletes starting to make a different path and they start to gain more ground on their competition than their competition is on them. One of the key aspects is journaling, and really why journaling? And really it's because they start paying attention to what they're doing, and really in saying that they start becoming their own coach. And I think there's nothing more important than having your athlete starting to take the reins themselves and realize this is their journey. And we're here as coaches to guide and help and get them back in place when they fall out of line. But when they start journaling and start paying attention to the details and what they're doing on a daily basis, I just think their trajectory changes. And they start to make great strides with that. And it's one of the things I've noticed over and over and over the past years with the women's program, that when I see them starting to get journals out and writing things down, you know, you can almost step back as a coach and really take you know, be on the backside of it and let them run. And it's just a great thing. And one of the things I think why is because they start to write a lot. When they're writing all the details down, they start to realize all the things they have and all the opportunities they have in front of them. And so what comes from that is they get a sense of gratitude, right? And how grateful they are for the opportunities they have in front of them. And I think that helps a lot in all of the relationships, whether it's teammate to, you know, between teammates, whether it's between the athlete and the coach, but that sense of gratitude definitely starts to come forward, and appreciation for one another, and then just taking this on as their journey, by themselves, but they start to realize that some things they don't have control over. They start to realize the things they do have control over and the things they need to make changes on. And I just think it really streamlines their energy and gives a lot more efficient pathway for success, because we all know that being successful in anything in life is hard to do. And there's a lot of things that are working against you and a lot of forces that are working against you. And you have to keep your mind on task and stay focused on the journey. Otherwise, you can get caught up in a lot of different, just side things, right? And along the way, and that are going to take you away from that. So journaling is a huge thing. And I think it's good for all of us, right? And to pay attention to what we're doing, how we're spending our time, and really building that pathway, because chances are if we're successful at the end of 1 year or at the end of 1 month and we've seen growth, we can go back and look at what we did, and chances are it wasn't by accident, right? And chances are our success came because there was a lot of right decisions along the way. Not all, I'm not saying we have to be perfect, but we have to have more right decisions than wrong decisions. And I think that, when you're journaling things, when you're writing things down, it's easy to go back on that, to look back on it and have that forever. And I know for myself, I think I mentioned it last week, but for myself in the women's program, I can go back years and tell you what we did in the month of December, right? And what we did in those practices, what we were focusing on, what our plan was. And I just think it's important to have that as a resource to go back on. And that way you're not just blindly coaching and trying to find the right things. So it's going to change year to year. It's going to change, moment to moment, because you have different athletes on the team that need different, things to succeed, but it still gives you a plan. There's not a plan in the world that we make that doesn't have to be changed. But again, if we fail to plan, we're planning to fail. And I live by that statement, and I think it takes time sometimes on the front end to make those plans and to do that, but it certainly pays off at the end.
And the importance of routine. I know you touched on that. I thought that was very important. The daily routine, the daily grind, and right now, especially when you're all alone on your own. Can you just touch on that before we move on?
Yeah, I think routine is so important, because no matter where you're at, and you really see this with athletes, when they're getting in uncomfortable environments. We may be over in Russia, or we may be, in China, and we don't know anything. We can't speak the language. The food we look at in the morning, we don't know what it is, and we still have to do the right thing. So I think anytime you have a sense of your routine, that no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing in your career, if you have some routine, it brings you back to a place you can trust, right? And you can trust in routine, and it kind of takes some of the stress away that you might have without any plan, right? Just jumping all over the place. So the plan is, plan and routine are so important. And I'm not saying that we have to be so rigid all the time, right? Again, with any routine, you can't be rigid to the point where, well, I don't have a bike this morning. Now, what am I supposed to do now, right? You have to be willing to be resilient through that, because there's going to be a lot of changes. And again, especially for a national team aspect, when a lot of times we're in different locations month to month, and you're going to have to make changes to routines based on what's there. But you have to have somewhat of a routine that you can stick to.
Yeah. So you mentioned Russia and Bulgaria, and okay, let's bring it back to, and I want to circle it back around to high school kids. You go to a city 4 hours away, it's no different. It's that uncomfortable feeling. So routine, back to that, because I know there's coaches on here, there's parents on here that have that kind of thought process. So the same thing holds true.
Yeah.
It's the
So
same thing. Yeah, for sure.
sorry, Coach. I got a great question for you here, and I know we're going to hold most questions to the end, but this is a phenomenal one from Curtis. So what are a few key components that a wrestler should stay in journaling and goal setting to help get them to the next level?
And Coleman, if you could unmute and show up, because this is where I wanted to go with you and Coach Steiner.
Yeah, first, before I'll let Coleman speak, I think, the key thing is they have to start as a wrestler. We are a weight class sport, right? We have to start to pay attention to what are we weighing it? What are we weighing when we wake up in the morning, right? What are we weighing when we go to bed at night? How much do we lose in a practice? Whether it's maybe it's a running practice, maybe it's a drilling workout, maybe it's a hard wrestling workout. How much are we losing in those time frames? Start to pay attention to that, right? I think it's important. Start to pay attention to your heart rate to see how you're recovering and what you're doing, right? How is your recovery? If you can pay attention to the heart rate early in the morning, first thing before you even get out of bed, what's your resting heart rate, right? You can get a lot of information from that. But then I think you got to start to pay attention to what do you want to accomplish during this day, right? What's your goal for the day? Don't just go into practice. The coach is going to have a plan, but you have to have a plan besides that. Like, what is the one thing you want to focus on and get better at? Maybe it's some things you learned. What did I learn from my teammates today? What did I learn from my coaches today? Maybe it's a few words. Maybe it's a technical issue. I just, paying attention to that kind of stuff. The details of the day, right, that are going to make or break you down the road.
Right. I was asking Coleman to come on, and I saw his thing was his microphone was off. That's because Terry had control. He just wanted the mic, Coleman. That's all.
Yeah.
He kept it muted. Okay. He kept it muted. He says, "Not coming in, baby. Not coming in." All right. So let's go to goal setting, because I know both of you guys have phenomenal careers. Coleman, unbelievable. I'd like to touch on goal setting. I know there's an awful lot of people that are out there that are young that need to hear this kind of stuff. And then I'd like to go back, Coleman, to the beginnings and how the goal setting and how these kind of things that you found important led you on that path to the unbelievable career that you've had as an athlete. And then we'll move on to now that you've moved into the new stages. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I think goal setting's probably your number one factor. I've always had the mindset of you got to think big to be big, right? And without a big goal to chase and without something to look at, and Terry talking about journaling and stuff, right? You have to have a line that you're looking at each and every day, right? And if you don't write it down, you don't document it as a competitor, as a coach, you don't know where you are. Right, and you don't know where you've been and what you've done and how you've evolved and how you've gotten better and the areas of focus you need to work on. So without that stuff, documented, it's sort of just winging it type of thing. And so I've always had been one to write down what I did every day. As an athlete, as a coach, I document. I make a pre-practice plan and then adjust it post-practice of exactly what we've done. And then take notes on each individual that was in that practice every day. And, and look at, like, I think Terry hit it on the head with, we have a plan, as coaches. And then, as an athlete, you have to have an individual plan when you go in, what areas of focus you're going to get better on. So I think that's the biggest thing, and I have a goal every day I walk in that room, whether it's a technique or getting better conditioning or whatever the practice is, I'm going to get better in that area of focus that day.
I don't know what age you were, Terry, when you started. I know, Coleman, you were like 6, weren't you? 6,
Yes,
7,
I started at 6.
6 years old. And now I know you have, what do you have, 3 kids?
3. I got a 8, 6, and 2-year-old.
8, 6, and 2, brother. The fun is
Crazy.
just beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a few questions out there. for again, the parents, the kids that might be on the call, what's your feeling? How young is too young? How old is, I mean, how old is,
Um,
get the wheelchair out?
yeah, I think that there's a lot of debate on it, right? And I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer, right? Because I think each individual kid, is definitely different. Now, my kids are around wrestling each and every day just because that's what our life is,
Right.
whether it's going to practice matches, right? So they understand it and see it. Probably better than just the kid that you're going to pull off the street just because they're around it a lot. So, my 6-year-old, it's a boy. My daughter's 8. My son started going, he just wanted to go to practice this year. So we started taking him a couple times a week. Of course, I'm not in there. I don't run it. It's a kids club, and I just sort of sit on the side and talk to the parents and hang out, and it's my time to relax. And, I want them to fall in love with the sport. I think that's the most important thing first, right? We can't be pushing these kids, right? I could care less what he's done or what he's won. I'm more sense looking to make sure he's having fun, and it might not be with wrestling. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I want to make sure, but he will be involved in a lot of sports growing up just because I believe, I want my kids to be active and want to do something. So they're going to fall in love with something, just by sheer number. So he started wrestling this year and he loves it. We took him, I went November to February, cut it off. And I said, you're not allowed to start back up until next wrestling season. You're 6 years old. There's no reason to push you through this right now. So I think that we're in a good spot. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if there is a right answer. I don't think there is. I've had college teammates that started as freshmen in high school. And I started at 6, right? It's just one of those things, and I think that, getting them around the sport is just as important or more important than getting them, doing the sport per se. My kids literally are in the room 3 days a week watching practice or around the guys and going to all the dual meets. And, so they have a little bit better understanding of it and what it is, and I think that that's crucial, down the road, just of the little things. So it's,
that's a great answer. That's a great, and again, for a lot of fathers now, I personally had to coach through the years with my son. And I mean, I think you and I have a similar belief system. And for those fathers out there that, are worried about, because there is a perceived pressure, not from the coach himself, but the perceived pressure. Let me move to pressure with you. Now, you had a lot of success. 3-time state champ, you're a 4-time All-American, you're an Olympic bronze medalist, you're an NCAA champion. Those things, year after year after year. What mental workouts did you do? Not just about physical. What mental workouts did you do, or did you work on to be able to go back and back and back and continue that run?
Yeah. And first, I think you need to put yourself in a great environment, right? Because a big part of it is not just yourself, but the people around you and what they're communicating towards you, right? If you've got, per se, a dad that's pushing you to win at all costs, right? Well, I'm worried about development. I was very fortunate, coming from the family I did. My dad was worried about just making sure I was, enjoying the sport and loving it, and then the success would come, and then I think that, personally, a lot of it's just, a lot of visualization of opponents, of matches, of what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and keeping yourself motivated and keeping those goals in mind, and keep telling yourself all the time, hey, what you're going to do, what you're going to be, right? Coming from a small town, Pennsylvania, and having these aspirations to be an Olympic champion, and, doesn't happen very often, in that area. And but for me, it was about just, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. I'm going to go, and I believe I can do it. And reassuring yourself over and over again, no matter how hard the practice was or how bad you did, right? There's times that you have to tell yourself, hey, I did get better in an area today, right? And you have to dissect what you did that day. It might not have been your best day, and you might have gotten beat multiple times, but there was an area that you got better. I got in better shape today. I got better at this area of focus today. So I think that the staying positive piece and not letting yourself spiral downward, because you will patch together some rough days and weeks, and the weight issue and this and that, and and your dad on top of you saying you should have done this, right? And there's, you really have to mature at a young age to realize that you know, you can control the controllable, control it, worry about that, figure out how you got better today, and then the sun will rise tomorrow and you will be a new man, type of thing. And it's going to be a new slate when I step foot in the room, and I will get the better of them the next day, right? And be motivated by the areas that you got beat in the day before, or where you need to get better and improve. And that's how I really kept it, just every day assessing what I did and not getting too down on myself. Say there was good today, even though I got my butt whipped. There was good.
And that's great. And Terry, I know that you talked about self-talk last week, and I think there's an awful lot of people right here. I think that Coleman is kind of bringing that into the forefront as well. Hey, there was some stuff that I did good today. You want to touch on that as well?
I just think that for sure. I mean, what Coleman is saying is that I'm going to go back a little bit to what he was saying earlier about starting athletes in the sport. And, one of the things that I think is so important is so many times we want to teach them the sport of wrestling, and I think we need to even back up from there. And that's what Coleman said was, let's teach them to fall in love with the environment, fall in love with the wrestling room, fall in love with being around wrestling coaches and wrestling people and other wrestlers. If they fall in love with that process, right, then you can teach them wrestling for the rest of their lives, right? And instead of just wanting to win right now, I think we start focusing on outcome instead of process. This is a long process. I mean, Coleman Scott is an Olympic bronze medalist. He's an NCAA champion. He's now in the sport as a coach. But that only happened because a long time ago he fell in love with the process, right? And I think that's the thing that I think everyone needs to focus on, whether we're coaches out here or athletes or parents, is to realize that this is a process and it's not going to be good all the time. I mean, Coleman has had a lot of successes in his athletic career, but I also bet that he could tell us about a lot of things he fell short on as well, right? He wanted to focus on them, but he chose not to focus on them, right? Just let it focus, maybe bottle it up and carry it with you so it helps push you and motivate you, but not focus on it, and just focus on the process, not the outcomes. Because there's a lot of highs and lows in this world, as there is on the wrestling mat, right? And we've got to keep moving forward. We've got to fail forward, if you will, right? So that's how I like to look at that. And, so that goes right into, I mean, you have to treat yourself good and talk to yourself good. You can't be bringing that bad language back to yourself, right? Let's treat ourselves good as well.
Yeah, I got to tell you, bringing that love for this sport, the greatest fraternity there is, this crazy sport that we are in. It's an addiction. It's a bad addiction, but it is a great fraternity that will do anything for their brotherhood. So
yeah, no, that's I agree with that, Alex, 100%. So both you guys have talked about positive self-talk and just that self-efficacy that you have to have if you're going to be successful at a high level. But Coleman, one of the things that you kept saying that was an underlying tone was that you were just going to be an overcomer, you were going to be a fighter. And when we talked the other day, I thought it was very, very interesting. You were saying the process and the journey that took you to Oklahoma State. Obviously, it's one of the best environments that we have in this country. But I was really enamored by your journey and what you were saying, some of the obstacles, some of the naysayers that was taking place. Do you mind touching base on that real quick?
Coleman, before you start, I want to interject to all the people out there. Hey, wrestling is family. There's nothing more important than family. I hope you don't get upset with the fact that we have our kids coming into our frames this is what wrestling is. And yeah, little
So
voices are always great. So
So,
go ahead.
Alex, with that, sorry for the background noise. I'm actually in Oklahoma, and I'm at Coach Smith's property, and we were fishing. So there's a bunch of
Oh
little kids running around, you
yeah.
know. So there's Espo and everybody over here. They're in the background. So if you hear gators and stuff running around, that's what it is.
That's the way it's supposed to be, brother.
Yeah, and it was funny you asked the question about my journey to Oklahoma State, and I had envisioned what I'm doing now and having these relationships for lifelong. Because I went to a school, I wasn't going there just to compete and win national titles, right? I'm a 17, 18-year-old kid coming out of small town Pennsylvania, and I wanted a place that I felt could hit my needs wrestling wise, but also make me a better man in life. And it wasn't just a 4-year investment. It was going to be a lifelong investment with the people that I surrounded myself with. Again, going back to my earlier point, that's a lot of your positive reinforcement is the people you surround yourself with. If it's all negative, it's going to be negative to yourself. Of course, I feel like I'm blessed of making that right choice as a young kid. But the big thing for me was, I came from southwestern Pennsylvania, a small town, and people were looking at West Virginia and Penn State, and why am I leaving? I wanted to be different. I didn't want to follow the crowds to say, hey, you should probably go here. That wasn't me. I for whatever reason, I had it in my gut that I wanted to be a little bit different than everybody. I wanted to follow my own path. I wanted to sort of create my own and forge my own way. And head out to the Midwest. And of course, my goals were to be an Olympic champ. And I think Terry touched on it a little bit. I don't think anybody wakes up, and don't take this as a bad way, but I didn't wake up dreaming of being third at the Olympics. I always wanted to be an Olympic champ. So yeah, I came up a little bit short, but I really do feel like every day I wake up, I don't have any regrets with the way I did it. And that's why I'm sort of, I don't want to say satisfied at all, but that's why I can wake up with no regrets, because I know that I gave everything I had for every moment. Could I have done things different? Absolutely. Right. But in the moment, that was the right decision. But getting back to going to Oklahoma State, it was a decision, that I felt was best for me personally. I didn't weigh really anything else. And of course, OSU was in the middle of that run of 4 titles. And, and I sort of fit what John was looking for, and I fit the program. And it was probably the least entertaining visit I took, but everybody I talked to, the whole team, it was one. They were all together. They were together. It was a family. And I'm glad I felt that, because that's what it still is. I still talk to all my college teammates. We're in group text all the time. I talk to coach, every week. It's just one of those things that it wasn't just go there to school and wrestle and get out of there. No, this is a place that you were coming and you're a Cowboy and you're going to be for life. And that's what I was looking for. So couldn't be more fortunate to go with my gut as a young kid and end up where I'm at today. And I attribute a lot of my success to this place, just going through the process of what they put us through here. It wasn't me. It wasn't, it was a little bit of everybody that put into me and gave back to me. Now it's my turn to give back to everybody else.
Well, and that's where I was just headed. Yeah, what a phenomenal run. Between you and Terry. Well, now Penn State is really on the move, but Terry at Iowa, you at Oklahoma. It doesn't
Oklahoma State.
State.
Sorry. Yeah, don't forget the state.
It's a state, okay? Okay. And those successes, now Terry was coaching at college and then moved to the national team, but the giving back factor, the moving to UNC. See, I didn't say North Carolina. How's that? Okay.
Nah, we are North Carolina. We're not the state. So.
UNC, right? Yeah. And touch on that. Tell us about that kind of the giving back and the fraternity, like you're there right now. Those friends are your friends. If something happens that happens to your family, those are the guys that are always going to be there for you. I've seen it over and over and over again. And I'm a lot older than you guys are, but wrestling's the best fraternity. So giving back, go from there, coaches.
Yeah, I think for me it was going to UNC and venturing out on my own again. I'm sort of a guy that wants to go and forge my own trail, and that was it. That was what that was about. It was about taking a chance on myself. I was nearing the end of my career. I knew I had a couple years left to compete, but ultimately my family came first. I was, of course, married, and I had at the time I had, I had one, and my son was just born in February of that year, so I had two kids. And I was looking at it as an opportunity to go do something and make sort of a name and make sure my family was secure. Not that it wouldn't be here, but I sort of wanted that something else. I knew that there would be something else after competing that I needed to push forward to, and it's really gotten me through these last 4 years of it. It will for a long time, but just what do I need to do to make this place better, right? And it's sort of again, very fortunate for taking that risk and being in the right place at the right time. And my journey, that move was really just about securing everything for my family. I was a volunteer coach here, and I went to a full-time assistant there, then a head coach a year later. I was making sure that they were okay. I trained, and as you guys know, there's not like we're making a bunch of money training, right? I was scooting by. My wife was working. I was on her insurance, and I was sort of tired of that. She had given up her life and career to live in Stillwater and support us, and she could have had other opportunities. So it was my turn to make sure that they were taken care of, and that was the start of that for me. And yeah, it was a few years before I retired, absolutely. But we're in the business where the opportunity might not be there tomorrow, and I needed to take the opportunity and put myself on the back burner for once, because from 2008 to 14, it was me.
Sure.
And really, especially through 12, everything we did revolved around, well, it was a good training for myself, and so I was willing to take that risk. And again, I don't regret it. We love where we're at. We love living there. I'm in a great spot where our team's getting better, and I'm pushing myself each and every day to be better, because we do have a lot of room to improve. Right. So I'm filling that void pretty quickly of the needs of that competition needs, just with the coaching aspect of it. And ultimately this sport, I don't care who you are. It's given me everything in my life. And like you said, comes a turn in your career where it's your turn to give back. And if you don't give back, this sport will will plateau, and we'll be just stuck in the mud. Right. So us as competitors and athletes, we've got to get back to the youth. We've got to get back to the college. I view my job as taking kids, boys, in essence, and making them men by the time they graduate and ready for the real world. Because the real world is way harder than freaking college. And I think we all know that, right? Yeah, and it's my job to buffer that and make them as ready as I can, and then help them succeed, past college. That's the real job. And then we'll just win a lot of wrestling matches on the way,
Sure.
and that's the way we look at it.
Right. And now you've even branched off, and I know that you've been an assistant coach for volunteer assistant for Terry with the world teams the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just touch on that, Coach Steiner, chime in too.
Yeah, for sure. And when we start, trying to get people involved with the women's program, I mean, it's first of all, it's not my decision, right? I mean, we make decisions based on what the athletes are telling us, right? And the athletes had been around. Some of the athletes had been around Coleman first as athlete, athlete to athlete, but now seeing him as a coach, and they were just, it was just something that they were very comfortable with, right? And so to bring him, on as a world team coach, I mean, that was voted on by the athletes, and they just felt really comfortable with his, just the kind of person he is, and you can hear it, who you're talking to. I mean, there's a sincerity there as a person that cares and wants to help, and really as a leader of a team, when you're talking about team, what are you really looking for? You're looking for a togetherness. You're looking for someone that's going to have your back when everything falls apart, right? And someone that's going to be there, and you have to be all in, right? There has to be a trust, there has to be a caring, and that's what team is, right? And there has to be an honesty and an openness. And I think that they just really felt that with Coleman. So when he got into that world team spot as a world team coach. I mean, it was an easy thing for me to understand because I just knew the kind of person he was, and so it's been a great addition. And the girls, they just felt really comfortable, to the point where the last years we've had the same two volunteer world team coaches on our women's world team, and that doesn't happen. Yeah, usually doesn't happen. Usually it changes year to year, but the athletes really liked the situation they had in 2017 or 2018, I believe, and it went on to 2019, right?
So real quick, Terry.
Yeah.
Now, you came from Iowa, went to Oregon State, were in Wisconsin, and got brought to the girls. Coleman, you were at Oklahoma State, and then you went to UNC, and then went to the girls. How'd you deal with it? What were the obstacles? What were the hurdles that you felt like I mean, did you train them the same? You train them, I've known Terry for now 14 some years. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, these parents that have young ladies out there that may not be wrestling, that maybe should be wrestling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that training them, it didn't vary very much for me. I think it made me a way better coach. And the reason it made me a better coach is communication, right? Guys respond different than girls. And I wasn't sure I was aware of that until Terry brought me on and asked me to do this. And, again, it was about giving back. And man, I freaking love winning. And I love beating Russians, right? And that was our goal. That was my goal, right? I don't care anything. I didn't care where they were from, who they were, what I was going to help Terry, Clarissa, and Team USA win. That was in that role. I feel like, and it's actually relaxing for me because during the year, everything's on me, right? Everybody's looking at me for whatever the answer to the question is. In that role, I'm just going like, hey, I got the questions. I'm sitting here. You guys tell me what you need. I'll get her done. Any girls that need something, I'm here to help you. I'm here to wrestle. I'm here to, if you need to cut weight, I'm here to, if you need to talk, whatever it may be. So for me, it was awesome to sit back and really just help, just freaking put my show up to the room every day. I'm always available. I'm here to help. And of course I believe that, growing wrestling, right? I'm not talking about men, women, I'm talking about growing wrestling as a whole. Right. And we got to do it. Right. And if we're stubborn, if we're going to say, not again, giving back, this is part of giving back. Right. I'm giving back to the sport that made me, that put me in a situation where I can raise a family and live a comfortable life. Why not give everything I got to it? And that's sort of where I was at it with it, and I believe that, like I said, it made me a better coach because I had to learn to communicate a little bit differently. The personalities, the way they responded, right? I was used to college kids, boy. College kids are sort of rough and tough, and the way you talk to them, and you have to find that way to get the most out of them. But a lot of them, it's sort of getting their butt and get it in gear, right? And I learned pretty quick.
We're losing you a little bit.
Coleman, hold on. Let's go right back to that statement. Hold on. Coleman, we're losing you. Let's take 15 seconds.
There? Yep.
Wait, hold on right here. Let's take 15-second commercial break while we get that back on. I'm not sure what happened. For those of you that are on the webinar, on the call today, I want to just let you know that next week we are going to have on Tom Ryan is next week. Tom Ryan. So that's the 30th. We'll be discussing the pathway to success, chosen suffering. And then the following week, which will be May 7th, will be Olympic champion Helen Morales. So we have Tom, Coach Ryan coming on from Ohio State, and we have Helen coming on. Frank, you've got a little commercial right there for us. And then Coleman, we'll try to get your sound back. Go ahead, Frank.
We pray to hear for USA Wrestling. We hope you and your families are all safe and healthy during this crazy time that we're all experiencing. Thanks for joining the webinar with Coach Terry Steiner. Our partnership with Ambit Energy provides a unique opportunity for our USA Wrestling membership to not only save on their energy bills, but to possibly raise money for the wrestling programs. If you're interested in finding out more about how to be involved, listen to Terry Steiner here, and he'll guide you. Thank you.
Okay, you know, he sounded just like the guy from Allstate. We got to tell Frazier he might have a real career in that. So going back, Coleman, you had a great comment there. We caught about a third of it. Can you pick it up?
Yeah, you guys hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay, so shoot, nothing changed on my end, so sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Hey, it's this live webinar, right?
Yeah, you know, I think the biggest thing was I was saying communication, right? It taught me how to communicate, and I knew what I wanted to get out of them, whether it's male, female, and it's just a different way of communicating that you can still get to that same endpoint. And the same endpoint, you know, I always tell my athletes, hey, this is a two-way road. I'm going to give you and pour my heart into everything you want to do. I need it back. You give it to me, I'll give it to you, and we can achieve your goals. Because ultimately, as a coach, I want you to accomplish everything I did plus tenfold. I want you to be better than I ever was. I want you to raise that flag every 4 years. I want you, whether it's national, I want you to be a multiple-time national champ, right? I want you to do everything I did plus some. And the way we do that is a two-lane road. I'm going to pour my heart into you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to give you everything I got each and every day. You give it back to me. Well, I promise we'll accomplish that goal. So communication for me was the big thing that I realized of how to get there and how to communicate with the women, you know, just a little differently, right?
Sure.
But what practices were the same, the skill was the same, the technique was the same. I wasn't going to let it slide because they were, you know, it might get away because they're wrestling. No, it don't matter. They're going to make sure it's perfected, and that's the way we need to treat it, right? When you let them slide, yeah, they're not going to achieve it against the Japanese girl in the finals, right? Because they are great technicians, right? We got to make sure it's spot on, no matter who we're wrestling. And it's this, you teach it the exact same way as you taught it to my college team or Jordan Burroughs, whoever it is. It doesn't matter. Nothing changes in that realm.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point. Terry, anything to add before we move to questions? I see some great questions up there. I know Frank is anxious to answer them, but Terry, coming from Iowa, coming from that college scene, now you've been the coach now for 18 years. Looks more like 30 by the color of your hair, but 18 years. Okay. Go ahead.
You know, there's been a lot of things I've learned along the way, right? And I think you know, but you get into a lot of ventures in life, and you think I'm in there and show them everything, right? And realize that you're learning a lot from them as well, right? I mean, I've learned as much from the athletes over the years as I've taken and that they've taken from me, right? And so it's just been a great journey, right? I mean, obviously, I think that, like Coleman said, there comes a time in life when you have to give back, and this sport has been such a blessing for our family, the Steiner family, that it came a point in our lives where it was time to give back and to give information on to the next generation, and hopefully they the same way we were and even greater. But you know, it's just been a great journey along the way, and you know, and we want it to grow. We want people to grow. We want the sport to grow. We want the sport to be better. I mean, even during, and I'm going to just bring this up right now, right? Even during COVID-19, right? We've added 2 college programs, 2 women's college wrestling programs during COVID-19 at August College in Iowa and Dixie State in Utah. One program, Augustana's Division III program, And then we've also added 2 states that have sanctioned during this time. The state of Oklahoma sanctioned the other day, and we just got word today that the state of South Dakota sanctioned women's wrestling in their state. So it's just great to see it continuing to grow even during these hard times, and just a great. We're on a great momentum right now and a great path, and we just want to keep that going.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah.
The four-wheeler in the background was perfect, bro.
Yeah, that was JoJo Smith going down to the pond to do some more
You
fishing.
know what? That's what makes
Yeah.
this. That's what makes this wrestling, baby.
I'm sitting out at this farm, so there's people in and out.
Dude, it's the best. It's the best. And if people don't understand that, really, they're not wrestling people.
That's just those Okies trying to shut up the Iowa guy.
We got to drown them out somehow.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, Frank, let's jump to you. Let's get some of these questions in. I see some great questions. I know it might bring us back a little bit, but that's okay. We've got about 14 minutes before we wrap this thing up. So go ahead, Frank.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Omar here had a question kind of for both of you. So in college and on the senior level, how do you keep things fun, okay, and motivating for athletes when it's always a grind, in different parts of the training regimen? How do you keep it fun?
I can answer that for Coleman. He keeps winning. Okay, go ahead.
There's a lot of ups and downs in mine, and I love the question. I think it goes back to the very beginning, setting those small goals, right? Whether you're winning on the mat. There's a lot of tours I went overseas, went one match and came back and, didn't win, of course, and didn't get pulled in. And, but staying motivated and setting small goals within your big goal. And then as well as I fell in love with being exhausted every day after practice and seeing how tired I could get myself each and every day, where I didn't want to pick my arms up, where my legs wouldn't move. For me, that was fun. That was fun. I mean, my weight was better than it's ever been in 12. My conditioning was better. My strength was better. I fell in love with just that feeling of sort of accomplishment each and every day. Whether it was I wrestled my best or not, I couldn't move after practice because I was exhausted. And for me, that today, that is still the best feeling in the world. After a 2-hour practice and not being able to move, it's way better than anything. And that's the process. Fall in love with that. Fall in love with the learning. And I challenge every time you're in a room with different coaches, different people, different athletes, pick their brain, because I did it every time I walked in a room and there was somebody new there. Hey, I know you're good in this position. Let me feel that. Let me figure that out. To me, that kept it fresh. I kept it new. I was challenging myself, putting myself out of my comfort zone. And that process and that to me, that's why I love it to this day. I freaking can't wait to get to practice every day to help somebody to feel something else.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up the comfort zone. Great point. Go ahead, Frank. Something else.
Yeah, and to tag on to that, I mean, I think it's the process is everything, right? And to find passion in that, to find the fun and the passion and the joy in the struggles, within that process, that's the key, right? That's the key for all of us, right? And in every aspect of our lives, we've got to find the great in each day, because not every day is going to be the gold medal day, right? Not every day you're going to feel like you've won anything, but these are the things we miss afterwards, right? When our careers are over with, you miss being tested every day. Right? You miss being, on the edge of your seat and those are the things that really that you do have to fall in love with, and it's a different kind of fun, right? It's a different kind of love for sure, right? I mean, but it really is an important aspect of it, right? And bottom line is this, at a certain point, when we have a young kid in there, right, they have to fall in love with that process, because there's going to be some hard times along the way, right? And at a certain point in a career, when Coleman's getting ready for the Olympic Games, it's not about fun anymore, right? I mean, you still have to enjoy those times, but it's about excellence at that point, right? And excellence takes a different journey than fun a lot of times, right? So I think it's deciphering through those things and realize that, again, somewhere along the line, you're going to pay the price, right? And Coleman paid the price at a time when he had control over what he was doing, getting ready for the Olympic Games. And now, you know what? He reaps the benefit of that for the rest of his life, right? And if he didn't do that, then he'd be paying the price for the rest of his life. So somewhere along the line, you have to put the hard work in, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it isn't. But I think that it's fine. It's still finding the fun and the passion within the struggle.
That's fantastic. So another question that feeds perfectly into that. Exact same topic. Talking about the balance between getting the process done, paying that price, but also staying in love with the process. So you guys want to talk real quickly just about that balance?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, I think the balance, I think Terry sort of hit it right. When you strive, it's a different kind of love for that process and what you want. The balance to me is prioritizing every day and your life and not wavering on what your priorities are, and what that ultimate goal is, and making sure that everybody around you is all in and buying in on what you want to accomplish and not having any sort of naysayers or questioning until that goal is accomplished, right? That helped me tremendously. Having a wife that was bought into the process with me made me love it, because if she was miserable, I probably would have been miserable. And that was huge for me in the sense of being able to chase that dream and really love what I did each and every day. And I fell in love more every day that I was in that room chasing greatness or chasing excellence, as Terry said. To me, that was it. That's all I had. That's what I looked forward to. So I think that, you find what your priorities are, and then that helps tremendously on just the balance of life and sticking to that. I didn't have much trouble with it, just because it was all I wanted to do in my whole life. And I love wrestling today more than I did 3 years ago or last year. It just keeps growing on me, and I keep learning.
I need to throw in a quick commercial, and that is to all the wives that might be on this call of wrestling coaches or wrestlers, or we could not do it without you. We could not do it there's nothing more important than support of I have a fantastic wife who was a fantastic wrestling mom, who those kind of things, sometimes they go unsaid, and I just wanted to take that time to say it. For all of us wrestling coaches, whether you're a peewee coach, a high school coach, a college wrestler, God bless you. Thank you so much for that. And so go ahead. Terry, you got something on that?
No, I think just to reiterate what Coleman said, I mean, I agree 100% that, it comes within, again, I'll go back to the routines, right? I mean, you have to prioritize the important things in your life within your daily routines, right? And if it's important, in that routine, right? And spend the time on it. And I agree 100%, that the you're in and the environment around you, your family, your spouses, I mean, they're an important part of any success.
Absolutely.
Any success, because this is a lifestyle. Wrestling is a lifestyle. It's not something that we do. It's something that we are, right? And everyone around you, the more they are an understanding of that and can appreciate that, the better it is going to be for everyone involved.
Right. Frank, you're on mute. Frank, you're on mute.
There, let's try that.
Let's try that.
Like Coleman, I've got a little one in the background who's having fun right now. So
That's good, baby. That's good.
All right, so Curtis had a question here. He's got a really large youth program up in the Northeast. He said the battle's not with the kids. but the battles with the parents, teaching parents realistic expectations. So, I know, Terry, you're dealing with, senior level athletes. At Coleman, you're dealing with college level athletes for the most part, but you've all dealt with, everywhere in between. So, I guess quickly, what advice do you have when talking to parents about realistic expectations?
For me, it's be honest. Be honest with them. Don't build them up to where it makes it even more unrealistic. I'm always honest with a parent where I think a kid can get, no matter what level they're on. And making sure that I am not, I'm not being a jerk about it, but we all know with work and development that what their goals or what you think they can accomplish can always be more, right? And I think that's saying, hey, nothing's guaranteed. Of course, nothing's guaranteed right now, but I think with your kid where he's at, this is what he can accomplish. And I'm not the one to say he can or can't, but with work ethic and development, and if he buys into the right coach, right, he could exceed those easily. And I think for me, it's just honesty to them, and not building them up even more than they need to be.
Yeah, I agree, and I think just the understanding too that not everything we get from sport is going to be a medal around our neck, right? I mean, and in fact, most of the great things we're going to get from sport, they have nothing to do with the medal, right? They're the lessons we learn along the way, and the true value of sport, right, is the education piece from it. The things we learn about ourselves, the thing we learn about how we can handle adversity and deal with situations as they come. I mean, those are things that I believe, and I know I'm biased, but I believe wrestlers are more prepared for life than most any other person out there, because of the daily struggles that they go through on that wrestling mat and in the pursuit of excellence, right? And there's so much to learn from that struggle and that pursuit. And I think that's the true value of sport, right? Hey, medals are great, championships are great, but at the end of the day, as coaches, we better be learning a lot more from this than teaching how to win a medal, right? We better be learning how to handle life, how to deal with loss, how to deal with struggle. And if we've done that, then any sport that you've spent time in is. So that's how I look at it.
Great point, Coach. Frank?
So I think we got time for one more. Alex, you good for that?
Yes, one more, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay. All right. So last question we have here is going back to journaling from the beginning here. Looking at what you would journal itself. So the specific question was, do you have a series of consistent questions you ask your athletes to answer in the journal, or are the questions generated more from that daily experience, from what happened in that practice? So Coleman, go ahead. Wait.
Yeah. Can you repeat that again, please?
Yeah. So when you're talking to your athletes about journaling, are there a consistent set of questions that you ask your athletes to journal every day, or does the journal more come from the experience of that day?
I think it's a difference each person. I think that you give them that freedom because that's their journal. They interpret everything better or differently than you do. I think you can give them a general guidance on, hey, let's see what you got better at. Let's see what you need to work on. But overall, what's put in there each and every day, that's on them. I think that that needs to be their own. That doesn't need to be guided from me. Then it's a little bit of a false sense if I'm telling them everything to write in that. And then they say, that's coach's words. He's telling me, he's telling me every question to ask myself, everything to answer. Right. I think that you need to be self-evaluating. You should be your own hardest critic in certain aspects when you're looking at being the best in the world or the best in the country, right? You should be pretty critical of yourself each and every day to say how you can get better. But that comes from within, and that's got to be a self-evaluation, not a coach's evaluation in that personal journal. Just my take on it.
That's a great view.
There's
I
one
agree.
question. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a personal thing, right? I mean, the journal is for the athlete, right? That's their book. That's, their time, with themselves, and to decipher through everything and get everything, so they better remember it. And that's their resource, though. I've never opened an athlete's book and looked in it. That's their space.
Yeah, this is, as a high school teacher, high school coach, I think this is probably the most underrated, and I've been with Terry for quite some time and seen the spectrum. How do you help athletes manage anxiety before and during competition? That's from Matt. I just think that is a great question.
Well, I think
You guys can.
personally, I think anxiety comes from outcome, right? If we're not worried about outcome, anxiety is probably not there. Anxiety comes
Amen, brother.
when we're focused on outcome and not process.
Right.
Let's focus on the process.
And I think part of that is confidence in your training, right? And it's not whether I'm going to win or lose, saying I've done everything I can do to make sure I'm prepared. And that's what I look at. Man, I'm prepared. I've done everything in my will to be the best I can be through these last whatever periods of time. That's where my confidence comes from. That's where I relieve my anxiety. I know I've done everything and I have no regrets in what I've done. All right. It's not whether I'm going to win or lose.
Absolutely. We always said, trust your training. And I mean, it really sums it up right there. Guys, I want to thank you. Tuesdays, Taco Tuesdays, but Thursdays with Terry. Coleman, it was so awesome to have you on.
Thank you, guys.
And
thank you, Coleman.
Thank you so much for taking the time out. I know that everybody here wants it. I'd like anybody on the call to please spread the word. Okay, next week we're with Coach Tom Ryan. And hey, Coleman, if you want to hop on, we're more than happy to tag team you in. We'd love to have all kinds of people here. And as far as if you want to rewatch it, we're working on that.
Yep.
There'll be a website. We're going to try and give you an opportunity. Those of you that have got on the call, that you can rewatch and listen to the webinar. Again, we're working on it on the technical side, but we will email you with the site once we get it all figured out. So you will have anybody who's signed in, you will have the series of Thursday there. Okay. So Coleman, I'm glad that not only you were on, but you gave a shout out to Clarissa, who I love. Both of you bronze medalists at the Olympics. I mean, man.
She's awesome. She's awesome. She's you usually say worth your weight in gold, but she doesn't weigh very much.
No,
she's 48 kilo, so she's
Right.
worth a lot more than that.
Right.
Just in her coaching aspect and her mindset and what she gives to this sport, very undervalued in my mind, undervalued overall.
Yeah, she's just a ray of sunshine, and that's what the sport needs. It's great. But again, Coleman, Frank, Coach Steiner, Terry, we love you. You guys are fantastic. Continued success to all of you, and thanks. Hopefully everybody that's on the webinar will come back next week. Love to have you. So
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
right.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Coleman.
much.
Appreciate everybody.
all right, thank you very much.